Welcome to Untangle Your Roots. This week we are going to begin the James Wilburn Welker project. To start on this project, we are going to start with the censuses. We are also going to be doing a census survey. I have already started the survey just to show you what the basic outline of what it will be. The reason why we want to do a census survey is to keep track of each individual. Not only that, but to gather the information of different name, spelling, the different ages, different things like that. And as we continue our search for these individuals through other records, we can go back to the censuses to gather information such as the occupation, where they're from, if they served in the war, when they migrated, different facts like that. To begin with, we have James Welker. You want to start with what you know. So I know he passed away in 1920. He's deceased. So I'm going to start with the 1910 census. Easy for me, I just type in the 1910 US Census on Google, and then I just go straight to Ancestry. You can use Family Search if you like. I prefer Ancestry. Ancestry's, I just prefer it. To begin with, we are going to start with his first and last name and the exact birth year. To begin with, we are going to start with his first and last name and the exact birth year. James Welker was born in 1825, and the location of his birth is in Ohio. So I'm going to just put the state for now. And it's taken a little bit to search. There we go. So as I look, I know his middle initial starts with W. And so I look at this very first one, and I see that it says James W. Welker, Georgetown, Bear Lake, Idaho, born in 1825, Ohio. And the relationship is he's the father. I'm going to click, and you just do not want to just view this. You want to actually view the record itself. So I'm going to click on the census, and it's loading a little slowly. And then this one's actually highlighted. So we have Gilbert Welker, which is one of his sons right here. So that is a match. Right here it says James W. And the relationship is the father, so he's not head of the household. It also says that he is a male, he's a widow, his race is white, age 85, and he's a widow. Now this is very important information right here, stating that he's a widow. Because we know he was married, and we know now that his wife is deceased. So when we get to death certificates, we will look for her before 1910. It also states that he was born in Ohio, and his father was born in Holland, and his mother was born in South Carolina. It also states that he does speak English, and currently right now he does not have any occupation. It does state that he can read and write. So with this information, I'm going to make the screen a little smaller right now. And then I'm going to make this screen also. And then I'm going to write in the information that is given. So James W. Welker, he's age 85, and instead of putting he's born in Ohio, if you notice up top, it says it's Georgetown Precinct in Bear Lake, Idaho. So I'm actually just going to put the county and then the state. Now typically I would also put the occupation, but since he's not working, I will not put the occupation. Now for my preference, I text wrap it. Like I said, it's a census survey. You can use a Word document or you could use Excel. You can even do it by hand. I prefer using Excel. So I'm not just going to stop there. Since he is with his son, Gilbert, right here, I'm also going to write Gilbert's information as well. Let me just double check, make sure that's correct. Okay. So, Gilbert is right here. I'm going to write Gilbert Welker. He is age 54. His occupation is he's a farmer. And also, he's in Bear Lake, Idaho. Now, another thing with this census, if you notice right with Gilbert, it has an M and a 1. That means it is his first marriage. It is both their first marriage. And it also states 35. Also, if I was to continue with Wilbert's family, his wife Charlotte, it states how many children she had, which was 13, and how many are living, which is dead. The 1910 census has tons of information on it. So, now, as I mentioned before, we want to work backwards. However, I'm going to make this big again. If I did not find him the very first time with 1825 with his birth year, I would go in and edit my search. They changed that on me. But I would still do that. I also knew he lived in Illinois. And then I would not do exact. I would do plus or minus 5 years. And it would still pop up. There's also with the different wildcards that you can use too. But let's continue. So the next census would be the 1900 census. Like I said, I just type in 1900 US Census in Google. And I just go to Ancestry.com. And I will type in his name. So I have this James W. Welker, and then I have a Susan Carolyn as a spouse. Bloomington, Bear Lake, Idaho, born in June 1825. Ohio, and head. So this possibly could be our individual. Or I also have a James M.W. Walker, born in Ohio, father-in-law. And then I have another Welker. However, this individual does not match my James. So I'm going to click on this James again, and I can see this, but I would prefer the actual record. Now, keep in mind you want to look at the record because the indexing of the names could be misspelled. So that's why you want to look at the record. And if you cannot find them on one of the censuses, you want to look at the front, the page before, and the page after. This is also including with family members. They can be at the very bottom of one census, and you can miss it if you do not go to the next page. And this will, so just keep that in mind. So I'm going to scroll down, and I'm going to look, and it is James W., and that is Welker. I know it looks like it is totally, if I zoom in, it's slashed out, but it is Welker. He's the head of it. He is a male, white. This is great because it gives the month he's born in. Born in June of 1825. It also states that he's married for 37 years, born in Ohio. Now, if you notice, last census, it stated that his father was from Holland, and this one states his father's from North Carolina. As we work back, and when we find James with his family, we'll figure out exactly where his father's from. So don't let that trip you up. Just take note that there's a difference in the two censuses. This one also states his mother is born in South Carolina, like the other one stated. It states that he is a farmer, that he knows how to read, can write, and speaks English. And this is just the farm schedule. So, not only does it have James, but it has Susan, and it has Harris, and it has Abraham. And if you look down here again, we have Gilbert, who is his son also. And as you see, I'm going to continue to scroll to see if there are any other Welkers. That's Williams. And then I'm going to go one page forward and also one page back. I know I did not do that with the other one, but I am doing it with this one. You should do it with all of them. There's a lot of Nelsons. I can see that. Nelson is a very common name. So I'm going to go back to the main page of where James and Gilbert. So I'm going to once again shorten my screen. So in the 1900 census, I'm going to write James W. Welker. So he was also a polygamist. I'm going to write his age, 75, farmer. And I'm going to look back up here to see what Bloomington, and I'm going to put Stillborough Lake. And I'm going to text wrap that. Okay, so if you notice on my census survey, his first wife, Anna, is already passed away. So his second wife is Susan. Now the reason why it does not say Mary number 2 is, once again, he was practicing polygamy. But right here. Now I don't they do have children, which is Harris and Abraham, is down there, as you can see. As you can tell, I don't have them part of my census survey, which I should. And so I would type her name. And I don't know much about her yet. I just know that she is his second wife. In 1900, they were done practicing polygamy. She is age 64. It says 64, and then it also says 68. 6 years apart. I'm going to put 68. And then she does not have an occupation. So I would continue that with the rest of the children. I'm not going to right now, but in the future, the next video I will already have it done for you guys. So anyways, this is his second wife. So I'm going to do Gilbert as well, since he is part of it. And Gilbert is age 44. And he's also a farmer. Now you can put whatever information you want in your census survey. It is your census survey. It is just something to look back on. You can use it for part of your research report to help prove an individual, to help prove the birth years, marriage, the occupation. This is yours. You can do whatever you want with it. You can create how you want to create it. Mine is just an example. But as you can tell, the 1900 and 1910 census is following correctly in his age and also his occupation, and he's still in the same county. But he did move between those 10 years. So now we're going to check the 1880 census for James. I'm going to make the screen big again. Like I said before, you can use Ancestry.com or Family Search, whatever your preference is. Since James's last name is such a unique name, the reason why I'm not using wildcards like the asterisk or question mark is because it's a unique name. Now, when I start the second project, after this first project's done with the common name, I will be using asterisks and question marks. However, I have that part of the tips at the very end of this video. I just wanted to throw that out there that I have not forgot to use the asterisks or question marks. It's just not applicable with his last name right now. We are actually very fortunate that we are finding majority of the censuses. Okay, so we know that his first wife was named Anne. Annie is also a nickname for Anne. It states that he was in Bloomington in Bear Lake, born 1825 in Ohio. I'm just going to scroll down because we also have another James Welker up top. Lives in Ohio, born 1825. However, I'm going to view that just to see if it's him. And it is not him because it says he's a widower. And these are his children's names: John, William, Emma, Matilda. And we know that James's first family is Alfred, Hetty, Orlena, James, Adam, Gilbert, Wilburn, and Ephraim, and Rebecca. So we can cross that off, knowing that that is not the correct James. We can now check the second James, which we're going to check the record again. And this one states that it's in Bear Lake again in Bloomington, just like the 1900 census. Now, the reason why we do not have the 1890 census is because it's unavailable. It is burned, which really stinks because there's information in the 1890 census. However, there is a veteran schedule in the 1890 census. So if you have an ancestor who served in the Civil War, you can check that veteran schedule to see if they're in the 1890 veteran schedule. I know I have an ancestor that is definitely in it, and I have used it. Now, for this 1880 census, we have James. Now, that is a W. It may look like an H, but it is a W. And then we have Welker. It states that he's the head of the household. 53. He is a farmer. He's married. Born in Ohio. Now, if you notice, it states that his father is born in South Carolina. So we have 3 different censuses stating where his father was born at. That is okay. Like I said, if I was to work back a generation, I would be able to find more information out about his father. However, I'm not working back a generation. That's another project. This also states that his mother was born in North Carolina. I'm curious to know if they swapped birthplaces since the 1900 census states that his mother was born in South Carolina and his father was born in North Carolina. So, not only do I have James, but I have Annie, his first wife, who is 59, so she's older than him. States that she's the wife to him, married. She is a housekeeper, so she keeps the house. She was born in Tennessee. Her father was born in Virginia, and her mother was born in North Carolina. Now we have the first, well, not the firstborn, but we have the 3 youngest. Wilburn, and then he's 23, says he's a son to him, which he is, a laborer. it states he was born in Utah and his dad's from Ohio, which is matches right here. And it also matches that his mother's from Tennessee, which is matches right there. You also have Ephraim, who is 20, also a son. They're both single, also a laborer. And once again, it matches. And then you have Rebecca. Now I'm going to scroll down more to see if I can find Gilbert, since I've been able to find him in the last 2 censuses by his father. So I'm not quite seeing him. So I'm going to go 1 page. I'm going to go the 2nd page. So I have a Welker John here, and another Welker John here. I'm going to go back to my list. I have no Johns. So it very well could be his brother. But keep note on that. You want to keep note because that's part of your friends, association, neighbors, you're a fan. And then I have a James Welker, an Adam Welker, which is his 2 children. So we'll come back to that for our census survey. I'm gonna go 1 more page because I'm sure Gilbert is with them. Okay, I did not see him on here. So I'm going to go to the 1st page. I'm going to go to James. And I'm going to do all 5 of these real quick. Here's a Susan Welker, which is his 2nd family. So the reason why James is not listed with Susan is because polygamy was frowned upon on the United States government. So Susan is listed as the head of the house, even though it is part of his family. So that's why you want to continue searching through the censuses, especially if you are working with families that have polygamy in it. Once again, I'm going to make my screen double. I'm going to type in James's information and zoom in. He's also a farmer. And once again, it's the same county. Then I'm going to do his wife, Anne. She goes by Annie, which I'm going to write Annie. And she was keeping house. Then I'm going to do his last 3 children, which was Wilburn. Now, if you notice, Wilburn is spelled differently. So I'm going to write how it is spelt. Wilberen. Age 23. He was a laborer. So I do have Ephraim as deceased, but it looks like he's part of this, so he must have passed away after the census was taken. Now keep in mind, if you cannot find your individual in the census, does not necessarily mean they're not there. They could have been visiting a friend, another family member in a different state, different city. So keep that in mind. If they're not where they've been the last 10 years or the last 20 years, they could be visiting a different area when the census was taken. Ephraim is age 20. He was also a laborer and was also in Bear Lake, Idaho. And then the last one is Rebecca for this family. Now, it has her first and middle name, so I'm going to write both. Rebecca Ann Welker, age 16. It says she's the daughter, but it says she's at home. So I'm not going to actually put an occupation down. I'm just going to put the county that they were in. And then, so, down here is Susan again. And like I said, I will put her information in before the next video. But I have more Welkers. Let's scroll to the top. So we notice there's two different Johns, which are one's possibly James's brother, and then the other one possibly could be a nephew or a son of John, and that's why there's two Johns. But I have James, which I have James right here, and it says James A. 29 is his age. He's also a farmer. It says he was born in Nebraska. Interesting. It says that his father was born in Ohio and his mother was in South Carolina. So just to double check that this is the correct James, I am going to click on him. And they have changes. So Inger Maria. Okay. And that is Inger. That's an R, that's not an S. So I just want to still double check. Now I use Family Tree very loosely because I know the information is not always correct, but I use it as a reference. And so on his vitals, it states that he was born in Iowa. To me, that tells me they are coming across the plains. And so that would make sense why he probably states that he was born in Nebraska, because they were coming across the plains. So I'm going to write his information. Just make sure it's the correct person. It's not. I'm going to put his middle initial as well, since it is written there. His age, 29. It says he's a farmer. And it's also Bear Lake. So I'm not, even though it has his whole family listed, which is great, his family's not my main focus. But right here is his brother Adam, who states that he's 24. He's a laborer. Born in Utah, father from Ohio, and mother from South Carolina. Which is interesting. Census stated that she was from Tennessee earlier. So I want to keep that in mind. And how I'll be able to further prove that is when I find her death certificate. It should list her birthplace. So I'm going to write an Adam. And I just realized that I put these in the wrong box. Okay. So Adam. So I'm going to write Adam. And I believe that's an M. Let's double check. They have definitely changed their layout. It's a P. That is a P. Adam P. Welker. Age 24. A laborer. So now we're going to type in the 1870 US Census. And I'm going to make this big again. So just typing in his birth year and his state he was born in. So I have a Phoebe A. Welker, born in 1823, Ohio. I have a Roseanne. I have a James. A John. That's a Walker though, but that's okay because they could have it misspelled. So it looks like he is not just right there, which is okay. Going to not do exact. I'm going to do plus or minus 5 years. I'm going to do Illinois because I knew he lived in Illinois. And look. I have two different James W. Welker with the spouse Anne, which I know is his spouse, Bloomington Rich, Utah territory. I also have James Welker married to a Phoebe in Ohio. Now, keep in mind this is the same guy who popped up in the 1900 census, and we declared that that was not him. So, we know that this is him. And I'm going to click on him. Now I'm going to find him. There he is. So once again, this is his second wife. So, and I'll add that information in before the next video. So this is really interesting because it states how much his real estate is, which real estate is land, like houses, the land itself. It's permanent property. It can't move. Personal estate is it's movable, and as you can see, that's worth $800. So you could go look at tax records to see how much land he's owned, and also land records, since we know he has real estate. It will state his land. So I'm going to, it says he's a blacksmith, which is interesting because that means he has changed occupations within 10 years. He was a blacksmith, but then when they moved to Bloomington, Idaho, he became a farmer. Like I have said before, the censuses can tell you quite a bit of stuff. And that's interesting. It says he's over 21. So I'm going to make my screen a double screen again. And I will zoom in so we can see. So I know this may possibly look like it's a C, but that is actually an L. A key to working with handwriting in the censuses is you want to look at the numerator. You want to look at the enumerator's handwriting. Look at the similar letters to figure out which letter is which. And so W, that's an L, L. That way it will help you. Age 43, he's a blacksmith. Now, like I said, they're in Utah territory. Utah's not a state yet. So I'm going to put County of Rich, and I'm going to put Utah territory. Now I could put his real estate, his personal estate, but I'm not going to. And then the next individual is his wife, Anne. She's age 49. She's still keeping house. So the censuses are still following their birth, which is great. Then we have Alfred, which there's no Alfred, so he's probably married on his own. But the next individual is James, right here. James A. Welker, which is Albert. He's age 19, and it just states he's at home. And then I have Adam, which is right here. Age 17, and he's also at home. Then I have Gilbert. Age 15, states he's at home. Then I have Wilbur. If you notice, that is an E. And he's at home. Then Ephraim. He's at home as well. And then Rebecca. Also at home. Now I'm going to make this screen big just to see if ages are still going, which they are. So the next census is the 1860 census. Now, I'm just going to clarify, my exes note that they are not born yet. Just to throw that out there. That's how I keep track of when they're born and when they're deceased. I actually mark deceased. Oops. Oh, I'm going to make this screen big again. Okay. So once again, this James Welker, he has popped up again. We know that it's not our James. So I'm still going to continue to check. And there's this James Walker in Jackson, Ohio, Claremont, 1825. When did he marry? 1845. Okay. John Walker again. So I'm going to do plus or minus 5 years and do Illinois. I have a Lydia Welker, a Henry Walker, William Wilbur, I do not see James, which this is the perfect time to do my wild cards. My first wild card I'm going to do is an asterisk. I have a James Welch. James Welter. James L. Welch again. Welsh. There's that James Welker again. I am not seeing. Oh, sorry about that. Just keeps popping up. So let's do an asterisk. Oops, not an asterisk, a question mark. So I have another James, another one, and another one. I'm going to put his middle initial in. He's still not popping up. So and then I'm going to change that. Okay, here is a James Welker, Omaha, Douglas, Nebraska territory. I'm going to click on him because I know he had a son born in Nebraska. So I'm going to click on the actual census just to see if it's him. I have a James Walker, Sarah Walker. I don't think it's him. Alfina, Martha, Walter, and Henry. So I do not think that is him. I'm going to check his children again. He was born in Utah. Okay, so I'm going to, oh, I don't know why it does that, but and I'm going to put lived in Utah, and I'm not going to put where the location of his birth is. Okay. And we're going to make that exact. Then I also want to make Utah exact. So I have a Joseph W. Walker and an Anna Walker. And I believe Farmer 500, 600. Ohio's his birthplace. Anna, Alfred, Hedda. Guys, we have found James. Now, this is a W, so we know that. And that is J-O-S. Joe's. So, we have found him. So I just didn't give up. I got very creative, which sometimes you need to do. You need to get creative. So, I'm going to write Josw, and that is Welker, age 36. He's a farmer. And it's box elder, if I remember right. Yep. Once again, I'm going to put Utah territory. And then Anna. Does not work. And then I'm going to put Utah territory again. Then I have Alfred. Now, we haven't seen Alfred yet. And this is most likely because he has moved. So he's age 13. So when I do further research for him, he would be age 23. Utah territory. And then we have Hetty, but that's actually an A. And then I'm going to go up because their family's on the next one. And I have Annalena, which is Orlena. Annalena Welker, not age 10, box elder, Utah territory. And then I have you know what? That's actually an A. So that's short for James. Age 9. So I know they're all on box elder, so I'm just going to write their names down. Age 9. I'm now going to check the 1850 U.S. Census. And this is the last census for him. also put, not in this one. Going to look up his wife. I'm not sure. We have another Ann Walker. So I would not, I'm not able to find them, which is okay. I would just mark this as a nil result. Sorry, guys. So that will wrap up our census survey for James Welker. The next video, I will show you a completed census survey for the rest of their family. As you can see, it does take some time. There are some tips that I want to go over with you. And you are more welcome to pause this video and write these down. To begin with, start with what you know and work backwards. So I know he passed away in 1920 and he was in the 1910 census. So I started the 1910 census and I worked backwards. You can also limit your search. So for example, I just did the first and last name and then the birth year. And then if that doesn't work, then I expanded my search by adding 5 or plus years. In the 1860 census, I had to get very creative. As you notice, I used the asterisks and the question marks, and that didn't necessarily work. But then I looked to see when one of the sons was born, which was in Utah, so I was able to use Utah. Working with the female's name, as you notice with Anne, I did not write her maiden name. I used her married name to see if I can find her in the 1850 census, which I did not. And as you notice, the different spellings of the names. So James was not a Welker in the 1860 census, he was a Walker. And his name was not spelled James, it was spelled Jas, which is short for James. So keep those in mind. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you need further help or looking for a professional genealogist, you can contact me at untangleyourroots@gmail.com. That will be in the description below. Please leave a like, subscribe, comment, share with your fellow genealogist, and next week we'll have a new video.